We're gonna start with uh, a new backup quarterback's in town, guys.
Hey,
A new backup quarterback. Josh, you want to tell us about him?
I mean, do I have to?
Yeah.
I mean, look, okay, hide your moms, right? That's all I can say. Okay, yes, to your point, Keith, Zach Wilson is our new backup. Not exactly who we as a collective Fins forecast projected as the backup quarterback that we think we would have liked to have signed, but in the same price range that we if you go back and look at our shows, we said we're going to be a higher paid backup quarterback team in the 6 to 8, maybe 9 million range, depending on who it is. And he came right in at that 6 million. So 6'2", 214, formerly of the New York Jets, and more recently the Denver Broncos, which I think actually might have helped him become a slightly better player. 26 years old at the start of this coming season, which I think is great. Still young. He's on a 1-year deal, right? I think it's 1 year, 6 million, fully guaranteed. But there's incentives based on playing time and productivity where he can get up to 10 million is what I believe it is. I think last year playing under Sean Payton in Denver really helped develop him more than he ever developed in New York. Do I think he's a starter in this league? Absolutely not. Not yet, at least. But am I ready to give up on him and say this is a waste of money? This guy is garbage? No, because I used my eyes. And if you watched preseason last year when he was in Denver, I think he took 53 to 60 snaps in the preseason for Denver and actually looked really good. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form he's a starter. But if Tua goes down, he is, and I have to credit, I think it was Kyle Krabs that said this on one of his reaction shows. Zach Wilson is Skylar Thompson. I know, hold your breath, but with every statistic maxed out at 99. Right? Okay. So he's a much better Skylar Thompson, essentially, which is fine for a backup, right? In a perfect scenario, he never sees the field. But if he does see the field, he has athleticism. He has he does have a strong arm. He can throw the ball really fast or really far. His issue is, at least in my opinion, his accuracy, which can be taught, which can be worked on, right? And in this offense that thrives on accuracy, I know I've seen the comments. Well, how can you sign a quarterback for $6 million that isn't accurate when the key thing you need for your quarterback in this offense is accuracy? Understood. However, you can teach that. And he gets in the room with Tua, who's a brilliant quarterback upstairs. You get him around the coaches, you get him around the receivers, and you take some pressure off of him. And you if he has to go in the game, if you being Mike McDaniel can set him up to not have to overthink things, because I think that's where he struggles when he has to read too much, shrink the field, make it a 1 or 2 read kind of play. I think he could thrive and not thrive. He could sustain this offense until Tua comes back, if that makes sense. I do not think that this signing, however, should dissuade us from drafting one in the mid rounds. Call it 5 through 7, right? If you look at his stats, 2021 for the Jets, he played for 13 games. He started 13 games. He had 2,334 yards, 9 passing touchdowns, 11 passing interceptions. 22, he played in 9 games. He started 9 games. I think this was an injury year. He passed for just over 1,600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. There is a reoccurring theme here with touchdowns to interception ratios. But again, understand that he was drafted second overall to a team that is garbage, that has been, and I'm sorry if you're a Jets fan watching this, I'm not a fan of your franchise. It is not because I think we are, yes, there have been years where we've been each other's rivals, but I do not think that we're in the same stratosphere right now. And I think the Jets organization from top bottom is a kind of a dumpster fire. And it has been for close to a decade, in my humble opinion. I'm not saying they don't have really good players at key positions. They just cannot get out of their own way. And when you draft Zach Wilson out of BYU with limited starts in college to be your franchise quarterback at number 2, that's a stupid move, in my opinion. And it set him up for failure. So I think him in a backup role, let him build into the offense. I think he can do okay things if he has to go in.
Okay. Now, we were kind of split on this signing when it first happened.
Mhm.
Seems like you've come back down to earth a little bit, Josh,
Yeah, yeah,
because you were
yeah.
you were really high on it when it first happened. And
I mean, really high, no, but I was excited that we signed somebody in the range that we all predicted. And I think that's where the excitement came from. Like, guys, we got it right, sort of.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
One thing I do like about Zach Wilson was he went in the Broncos camp last year. He did play well, and he went there with the idea of maybe I can become the starter. The Broncos drafted Bo Nix. Bo Nix,
formerly known as Bo Nix. Now he's Joe Nix.
Yeah, he's graduated. He got an extra letter in his name. No, so Bo Nix was drafted by the Broncos in the first round, and Bo Nix beat out Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham
handedly.
Yeah,
handedly
in camp. And what I liked about Zach Wilson was the way he handled that,
Mhm.
the way he handled the disappointment of not being the starter, where he basically came out and said, "You know what? He was the best quarterback. He outplayed me. Good luck to him. I will be here to help him in any way possible." That was a really mature thing to say. Even if that's not what he felt, that was a mature way to publicly handle the disappointment of not being the starter.
Mhm.
Now he's coming to Miami, where we know he's not going to be the starter. He knows he's not going to be the starter. If he thinks he's going to be the starter, he's freaking delusional because he's not starting over Tua. But I will say this: I wasn't as high on the signing for the reasons that you just outlined, Josh.
Mhm.
And the other person who wasn't high on the signing, Anthony. Anthony, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is the exact opposite of what I wanted here. I wasn't looking for a failed second-round pick with very little upside and terrible stats to boot. I get that he just came from Sean Payton's system in Denver, but we don't have Sean Payton down here in Miami. We got Mike McDaniel and a QB coach who failed to get anything out of 4 different quarterbacks last year when Tua went down. Like, I get it. Get him in the room with Tua, get him in the room with receivers. Hopefully he gets better. Hopefully he clicks. It didn't happen for any of the guys we had last year who I would consider to be on about even playing field with this guy. Like, no, they weren't all starters in the NFL like he was, so he does have that one up on them. And yes, he comes from a higher pedigree than them. So if we're going to look at that, sure, Zach Wilson is better than the quadfecta or whatever you want to call it that we had last year.
I call it a shit show, but you can call it whatever you want.
Sure. But man, when we were talking about spending top dollar for a backup quarterback, I was hoping it would be like a guy who can actually play quarterback. That would have been nice. This guy has more career interceptions than he has touchdowns. That's great. 57% completion percentage in his career in an offense that requires you to be accurate. Like, what? That's crazy to me. And like, if the coaching staff proved last year they took Tyler Huntley or Tim Boyle or Skylar Thompson or whoever the hell else played quarterback for us, that they could put these guys in this system and give them a 1 or 2 read play and that they would succeed, then I'd be like, yes, this is great. High upside, young guy, 2nd overall pick. He obviously had talent or has talent. It's just untapped. The problem is I don't have any confidence that the coaching staff can get anything out of him that anybody else did, right? Like, I don't think we're going to get out of him what the Broncos got out of him because, frankly, I don't think our QB coaches are as good as Sean Payton and staff. And what does it say that they would have rather paid Stidham? What's his first name? Jared Stidham. They gave him a 2-year, $12 million contract instead of bringing back Zach Wilson for 1 year, $6 million, right? So even Sean Payton didn't want him back, sends him back to Miami instead. This is the exact opposite of what I was hoping here.
Yeah,
obviously.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, obviously all backup quarterbacks are mostly trash. That's why they're backup quarterbacks. I get that. But man, give me somebody who can freaking make a play. Give me somebody who's not afraid to whip it down the field. Don't give me a failed quarterback who I have no idea what we're going to get out of him, but I sure as heck am not confident we're going to get a win if he has to play.
Yeah, and I will say this, if as we get through all of these signings, I think there's a common theme where we set our price for that position, and then we shotgun to every free agent and said, who wants to play for this?
Yeah.
Right. Who wants this money? Right. And I think for the players that we all discussed as wants, like the Mariotas and the who was the other guy that we kept talking about? The
Minshew
Gardner. Yeah. I feel like they knew their value was more than $6 million. Right. And I don't think our front office was willing to budge. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, I mean, I say that with zero context. I'm not in these.
Well, Mariota re-signed today, 1 year, $8 million. So
okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, who knows?
Well, Taylor, you were a little higher on this than Anthony. Anthony doesn't set a high bar on this signing, but so
yeah, if he can put his helmet on, it's a win, right, Anthony?
yeah. So Taylor, what are your thoughts on this Zach Wilson signing?
I already know I'm going to regret this, but I think I'm the highest on
Yeah.
Zach Wilson signing with the Dolphins out of all four of us here. I had him on my radar as a free agent signing. I was not a big fan of, and I'm kind of splitting hairs here when I'm talking about like the contract he got. I'm talking about like $1-2 million more than I would have personally liked to see, but it is what it is. I would have loved to get somebody like Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota or Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jameis Winston appears to be sitting out going like, well, it's musical chairs at quarterback, and somebody's going to end up with no quarterback, and I might get a chance to start. I don't understand what happened with Mariota, if it just didn't work out contract-wise or what, but getting to Zach Wilson, I'm not going to sit here and act like Zach Wilson's this untapped elite quarterback potential. No, he's a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is. He is a QB2 at best, and he got drafted too high. That being said, there are, and this is whenever you go to look at how he played with the Jets and with the Broncos, there are actual traits here.
Mm-hmm.
This
and
is
he's
not
got 36
Skylar
starts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
That's why he was on my radar as a quality backup. It's because of the experience. It's because he was around Aaron Rodgers and Sean Payton and some coaches, not naming Nathaniel Hackett, because that does hurt my argument a bit. But he was around a lot of coaches and players that actually should have helped him.
Is it LaFleur too, right? Matt LaFleur too?
Yeah. Yep. I believe in 2020?
21,
like his
21
rookie
and
year?
22 or something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So he's got traits to where, as Anthony, you brought up, the staff couldn't get anything out of Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle and who else was Skylar Thompson, all these guys. And Mike White, that's somebody who I've seen brought up a lot. Like, we just got an Jets quarterback who's earned more picks and touchdowns. Guys, I understand. I'm not trying to champion from Zach Wilson to like be QB1 or be this great quarterback. He, again, to be clear, he's a backup. But he has more arm talent than all those quarterbacks I just named
combined, in my opinion.
It's not even close. He was on paper, in terms of talents and traits, a first-round pick. He should have been.
Back in college too.
Pick number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Nah.
I mean, none of that matters when you have the mental capacity of a 3-year-old.
See, that's where you do go to the flaws in his game. I do think, Josh, you nailed it when it comes to accuracy and decision-making being the problem. And Anthony, I think you nailed it as well, or Keith. One of you guys said you want a quarterback who's not scared to throw it. And there was something about Zach Wilson, especially with the Jets. I want to say the year that Aaron Rodgers was there with him. And he just seemed like he was scared to just go for it. He's got arm to do it. So that's the one thing that I'm a little optimistic about, because that's something I kind of thought Tua had a problem with early in his career. He was scared to throw it to where Fitzpatrick said, like,
he did have the yips a little bit, Taylor. I'll grant you that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that with other Jets quarterbacks in the past. Sam Darnold.
Seeing ghosts.
Geno Smith.
Yep.
These are guys that escaped New York and became serviceable quarterbacks in the NFL. If not, none of them are elite. They're serviceable.